Now with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Surfer Girl, Leclerc and Sergio Perez. With qualifying wrapped up now, we have our grid lineup for the big race tomorrow. Be sure to join us then for what will no doubt be a fantastic race. So it's all about speed in today's sprint, not very many laps and no chance to get ahead on strategy. Who here today has the raw skill to take them to the top? Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Surfer Girl lines up on pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Sainz, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Verstappen, Russell, Hülkenberg, Fernando Alonso, and Lando Norris, Ocon, Gasly, Kevin Magnussen and Bottas, Ricciardo, Mick Schumacher, Yuki Tsunoda and Guan Yu Zhou, Vettel, Albon, Stroll and Nicholas Latifi. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out. Here we go then, the formation lap is underway ahead of today's sprint. As all the cars take their positions on the grid, the final preparations have been made and all that's left is for the drivers to deliver on track.
Perez behind. was the fastest lap of the race. Keep this up. Well done. Gap to your teammate behind is 4.7 seconds, 0.0 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. They're sitting in 7th, and the time last lap was a 1 minute 23.8. Okay, this is your final lap of the race. Okay, this is your final lap of the race. Okay, radar is clear, weather is looking good for now. Okay, dries seem like the best tyre for now. As things stand, we're going to be leading the championship. Okay, last lap time was a 1:23.0. We're really happy with the podium here, well done.
So let's see what effect this result has had on the drivers' standings. Surfer Girl increases their championship lead. Let's move on to the constructors. The lead at the top comes down after a strong weekend from the challenging pack. Another team that excelled today were Williams, who make further progress up the table. The grid is set then, so that just leaves the race itself. Join us tomorrow where we'll be live with all the action. And until then, goodbye. Welcome once again to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari. The clue's in the name. This is very much Ferrari home turf, and the locals will be out in force today to support their team in what we hope will be a magnificent spectacle of motorsport. On then to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. 3.1 miles of track at Imola featuring 19 turns, 9 to the right and 10 to the left. Remember that Imola differs from most other Formula One tracks as it's taken anti-clockwise. Let's hope nobody forgets that today. The exit from turn 18 will probably be the setup for many of today's overtakes, leading as it does into the longest straight on the circuit, and it's only DRS zone. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Surfer Girl lines up on pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Perez, Verstappen, George Russell and Hülkenberg, Hamilton, Norris, Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon, Magnussen, Gasly, Valtteri Bottas and Tsunoda, Sainz, Vettel, Guan Yu Zhou and Daniel Ricciardo, Stroll, Mick Schumacher, Latifi and Alex Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching out for as they head into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out. As the cars make their way back to the starting grid, lights out. Let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books.
Alright, we'll be doing one more stop today. One stop left in this strategy. You've got 4 laps until your pit window opens. Right, so the drivers we're racing are Verstappen and Perez. Okay, DRS will be enabled this lap. You can use it when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone. Nice work, mate. That brings you up a place. Here's who we're really fighting today, Verstappen and Hulkenberg. We're approaching the pit window and you're going to be on mediums. That was the fastest lap of the race so far. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 2.3 seconds. Behind. Okay, the gap is less than a second. Okay, they're on old softs. Okay, they've got 4 laps on their tyres. We think they've got one more stop. Time last lap was a 1 minute 24.0. Gap to your teammate behind is 2.8 seconds. Okay, they're on old softs. They're in 4th. Your last lap time was a 1:24.2. Box, we're coming in this lap. Okay, be careful. We think you're going to start losing some tyre grip anytime now. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. Drivers we're fighting here are Ju and Leclerc. Nico's coming in for his stop now. No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving. It's Schumacher ahead of you. Our gap to the car in front is 4.3 seconds. They're on old mediums. Okay, their tyres are 7 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. And the time last lap was a 1 minute 26.3. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 3.4 seconds. Okay, good work. Great pass. Science ahead, they've just entered the pits. They're on old mediums. We think they've got one more stop. Time last lap was a 1:25.7. That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go. 13 laps of fuel remaining. Tyre condition still looking good. Okay, this is your final lap of the race. That's 3 wins in a row, mate. Unbelievable work.
You can't fault the performance on the track today. A well-deserved victory. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Well, tyre management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
Well, what a thrilling end to an incredible Grand Prix weekend. Our top 3 finishers should be incredibly happy with what they were able to achieve out there today. So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. Surfer Girl increases their championship lead. Well, after an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
I have to give it to Surfer Girl. They demonstrated a very delicate touch in close proximity to other cars, as well as showing a lot of maturity and patience in difficult situations.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. The current leaders continue to extend their lead at the top. There was also a strong showing from the McLaren team today as they make their way up the standings. Well, that was certainly an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.